Excellent. I'm just finishing up Mr. Harrison's bio, if that's all right.
Yes, please.
Okay. He welcomes influential guests to his podcast to discuss crucial societal issues embodying the ethos of Christian talk radio with a sting. Harrison's extensive activism includes founding the Minutemen United Ministry, advocating for family values and societal engagement. With a belief that the family is the cornerstone of a thriving society, Harrison tirelessly works to restore its proper place in the American narrative. And we'll pass it over to you, Reverend Oliver, with our host or with our guest here.
Mr. Harrison, I'm Reverend Oliver, Zachary Oliver. Sorry, I'm in Zambia, Africa, doing some projects, and EJ called me to remind me our time zone is very different, but we want to really welcome you. As just want to give just a little quick synopsis, as you already know, that we've been doing this for several weeks, and it originally started with gun violence. And then we realized that a gun is an inanimate object. You hear me say that all the time. It's an inanimate object, but the problem is who picks up the gun. What is the root cause of people picking up a gun or any kind of weapon and harming another person? So as we have gone through several of these wonderful programs, having different advocate leaders, community leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, judges, and a variety of people have come on and shared their hopes and strengths and avenues, preventions and post-prevention programs that they have that has contributed significantly around the United States in reducing crime. And thank you so much for coming. And we look forward to hearing what you have to say in your area dealing with family values. Welcome, Mr. Harris.
Thank you very much, Reverend. I really appreciate the opportunity today. I'm by trade, I'm an executive recruiter. And when you have a one-on-one conversation or you're on a broadcast like this, it's nice to know who your audience is, but it's also nice to know who's talking. And I really appreciate the introduction. I got bit by the righteous bug about 36 years ago, and I've never been the same since. I had a very, very successful business. I was what you would call at the business mountaintop. But once I got bit by the righteous bug, my focus kind of changed. And to be honest with you, after about 2 years of not paying attention to the business and paying more attention to what's going on in the world, I lost the business. And I don't regret that. I don't regret that at all. So my history is it's like in three separate entities. Number one, I started off by, okay, there's something wrong in America today. There's something wrong in the world today, but America is the key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to help get the right people elected to office. So for 10 years, I helped get senators, representatives at the federal, state, and local level, not mayors, but city council members, school board members. I helped get them elected. But after 10 years, I'm going, wait a minute, this isn't working. This isn't working. And then I'm looking at, well, what could the problem be? And I'm looking at the church. I'm going, yeah, as goes the church, so goes the nation. So I spent another decade working on the church. We went to pastors to try to get them to recognize the critical importance of the church, and for those pastors to get their congregations to be salt and light in the environment, in this world. And if we could just do that, things will turn around. Well, 10 years of that, and again, you can see what happened, and nothing really improved. So as I'm going through this process, I run across an individual who starts talking to me about the family. And I'm going, okay, but the church is the key. And he's talking about the media. He's talking about educational institutions, the 7 mountains of influence. And I say, stop right there. As goes the church, so goes the nation. But as we kept talking, it started to occur to me that, wait a minute, hold on a second. If the family is broken, what's the church going to be? As a matter of fact, what is anything in society going to be if the family is broken? So I came to the realization that yes, as goes the church, so goes the nation, but as goes the family, so goes the church. And I've been spending the past 10 years plus working on that particular aspect. And it came about to be the Natural Family Foundation. And the word natural is something that God gave to me. I'm not smart enough to think this up. But basically, one night he woke me up and I was trying to think of the name of the organization. I was thinking nuclear, traditional, all the names that you would think of. And he gives me this word natural. And I'm going, natural? That doesn't make what? But if you stop to think about it, natural, and when we talk about natural family, we're talking about one. Now, this is the best practices, okay? I've been divorced. That doesn't change the truth. Kids have multiple parents. There's all kinds of variations to that. But the key to the family, when you talk about the family, you need to know what we're talking about. Describe it. It's one, and you got to say this, biologically born man, one biologically born woman, and a lifelong committed monogamous relationship. That is the family. That's the key. That's the best practices. That's the historical best practices. Historians, psychologists, anyone, sociologist who deals in those areas will tell you that that is the key. And in the book that I about finished called Romans 2 or Second Romans, there is no Romans, well, there is no Second Romans in the Bible, but Romans 2 is basically the United States is making the same problem that former civilizations has made, is they completely ignored the importance of the family. It's like when you go to the Thanksgiving dinner table and you have that little card table for the kids. That's where the family is in America. That's where the family is in the world. The family needs to be at the head of the table. And within that family, you have to take three considerations. Number one is the content, which I just went over. Number two is a structure. And that is basically in Ephesians 5 in the Bible, you'll see God, Jesus Christ, man, woman, children. That is a vertical relationship. Where do children learn authority? It shouldn't be in government-run schools. It should be in the home, and that authority goes to the father. Okay, you have to have a vertical relationship. If you gave me the opportunity to be a father or a mother, I would take the mother because the father has responsibilities. Yeah, we have authority, but we have responsibilities. Women have influence. So you give me authority, give me influence, I'll take the influence every time. So please, I'm not being chauvinistic, okay? I'm just telling you the way it says biblically and the way it is in life. Children look for that. And by the way, a child needs a mother and a father, one male and one female. They know the difference. And when you take a child out of that normal environment, if you remove a father or you have abusive parents, you've got problems. And this nation has more than a 50% divorce rate. And all the variations that are coming up, I don't even want to get into what could potentially be for us. But if you look at our prison systems, and if you were to stop and talk to one of the prisoners and ask them about their family life, yeah, you're going to hear for the most part it was broken, or you had an abusive president. So the family to me is the key, and what we're trying to do is to get people to appreciate that. This past 3 years ago, we went to a local city, which for the first time had put up a gay flag for the month of June. And we asked that city, I'm going to give you the power of the natural family and how it can affect what you're doing in life. We asked that city to have a natural family month. Now, the natural family month runs from Mother's Day to Father's Day, bookends, right? In between, you have Children's Day, you have Grandparents' Day, you have Extended Family Day. You know, some people may say, well, I don't have children. You're still a child, right? You're part of the family, the natural family. You can say traditional family as supported by the laws of nature and nature's God, because that's what we're talking about, the natural family. Traditional, yeah, but that changes over time. But traditional tradition, as supported by the laws of nature and nature's God, it just is what it should be. I hope I haven't been talking too much.
Go ahead, you have time. Thank you. Go right ahead.
Okay, okay. Well, if anybody has any questions, please, I don't want to assume that I'm giving you all the information that you should have to be able to do this, to understand the natural family, to understand the family as critical importance. But folks, it makes common sense. It just makes sense. And it does, because we're kind of born with a software app. And that software app for children is they need a mother and a father. And I can tell you from personal experience, I grew up in a broken family. My father was a womanizer. He was an abuser. And I mean physical, to me, mentally, whatever abuse there's out there, that was my father was guilty of that. And because he didn't want anything to do with me, that created a vacuum. Now, anybody that's been in this kind of an environment, the broken family environment, where one parent is missing, will tell you that there's a vacuum created, and that you will spend the rest of your life trying to fill that vacuum here on planet Earth. You can try drugs. Some kids try gangs, sex, anything that'll try to overcome that incredible vacuum that's created when you don't have the parents. And again, think about in the beginning, God created 3 institutions for the benefit of man: the family first, not by accident, the church, and the state. And the family is the core. It's the basis. It's the foundation of all society. And again, if you track back into societies, you're going to find out that where the family started to get spread out, I mentioned that vertical relationship with the family. In Rome, among other things, and we're doing this in America, by the way, we flipped it to where it's horizontal, where the mother, the father, the children, the state, whatever, all have equal authority. Kind of like an anarchy, if you will. And we're seeing how that's working out today. Look at the streets in America. Look at the kids. When I see all the rioting that's going on and that had gone on, the question that comes to me is, okay, where are their parents? And what are their parents thinking about now? It's just absolutely amazing. Again, if anyone has any questions, I would love to answer them. By the way, we're trying to get a city or cities or a state to declare Mother's Day to Father's Day as a natural family month. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. That was, I just want to let you know, you're not stepping on anybody's toes in this particular audience, unless they're a live audience, but this particular audience, you're actually preaching to the choir. So,
well, good.
Yeah, because most people on this call are submerged in the understanding that the family is the cornerstone for all societies, and building a righteous and a good society. And without it, we see the havoc that is wreaking right now in our world today. So I totally agree with you. And while you were speaking, I was thinking about, because a lot of this is centered around the crime and violence. And while you were speaking, I thought about some of the prison gentlemen that I've spoken with that are tough, rough, and this whole rough exterior. And if you get them alone and you can talk to them and you can break that shell, many of them say, I'm suffering, or my problem stems with, I miss my father. I never had my father there.
Yep.
And it just takes you aback that this guy who looks so confident and everything else, but the innermost self of him is painful, and he's connecting a lot of his or her, especially males, their ill behaviors, or the stemming of their ill behaviors, for the lack of that love from the father that they have never have gotten. So we want to thank you so much for sharing that piece. And yes, the floor is open. Anybody else would like to share anything, or you can also continue. Anybody like to ask a question? or I have a statement to make.
Wayne Hankins has his hand up.
Oh,
Hi, Wayne.
I didn't know he was
Hi.
on.
Well, I am part of the choir that the Reverend Oliver spoke about. So you're talking about the things that I try to live by and to uphold. But your comment of having a period of time from Mother's Day to Father's Day is not long enough. You left out Parents' Day. Parents' Day is a national holiday that President Clinton signed into law with the unanimous consent of both parties to be the fourth Sunday in July. So extend it to that point. And then I have one other comment. I want to hear your comments on it. The family was very strong through World War II, after World War II. And then I have to claim that I'm part of the free love generation that broke down the doors of moral constraint and authority and many of the traditional values. So it goes back to that point. And your comments on where did this begin? And am I right in thinking that it goes back to that point in the 50s and 60s?
Well, actually, it goes back to the Garden of Eden. But I mean, really. But in terms of the United States, I think yes, you're there, because there was, before World War II, there was that man, and actually before probably World War I, but World War II is where it really came out. You had Rosie Riveter, okay, and you had the mother was becoming independent, and the father was away, and then when they come back, I think that our capitalists kind of took advantage of it, keeping up with the Joneses. I'm sure you remember that. So in order to keep up with the Joneses, in other words, if you wanted to have all these things that you're in America and you expect to have them, then both parents are going to have to work. And I think that, yes, I think that was the real start of the decline of the family, because it's just Satan will do anything he can to divide the family, us from God, period, but the family from one another. COVID is like the extreme of this. It's at the tail end of that. But yeah, this was taking both parents out of the family. And so the children need that authority. They need to look for that, and they will look for that, and they need to fill those blanks. So once that started to happening, then we have what we have today, where both parents literally have to work now and put their kids in a government-run indoctrination center. I think some of you call that public schools, but you have to put them in those centers in order to educate them. And what they do is indoctrinate them. And what the first thing, when you go to a government-run school, what those teachers need to do, because they have to have levies passed, those teachers need to do is make that child feel good about themselves. And you don't want that child going home and telling mama and papa that they didn't have time and good time in school today. So to respect that individual, make that individual feel great, and do whatever you can. And then you have the societal, the humanist aspect coming in with whatever. I mean, with the homosexual agenda, the transgenderism, whatever, you can use your imagination. So to make a short story long, yes, I agree with you. World War II is probably the foundation of when all this started to crack, when all this started to fall apart. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. One other thing, and the role or the failure of Christianity in all of this. What are your thoughts on that?
Say again, please.
And the role of Christianity not upholding the values that they proclaim.
I think that's part of the satisfying of man. And it's kind of like, well, the government has taken over a lot. I don't listen to Fox News, but I have my best friend in the whole world that does listen to Fox News, and I have to pass that TV every now and then. And I heard Fox News the other day, and I don't know what the item was, but they were complaining about what wasn't being done for a particular individual group. And they said the government didn't do their job, so the church had to come in and do the government's job. And I'm scratching my head and going, what? That is the church's job to do what the government is doing. Most of what the government is trying to do right now is, whether it be the poor, the sick, the ill, whatever, that the church should be doing that, but they farmed out that to the government. And that saves them money, that they can build a new parking lot, or they can build a new building, or they can do this and that and the other. They can pay more to have more people on board, or pay the pastor more. So yes, I definitely think that the church has succumbed to the humanist influence, and I won't say on purpose, maybe innocently, I don't know, but it is where it is right now, where the church right now, I was listening to William Fetter the other day, two branches, growth of the church in America, the pious and the purist. And the pious are, well, we don't become involved in government. You just stay totally away from it. And the purists are, we are the government, we are part of the government, and that's how this nation was formed. But we've kind of, I think, come way over to the pious side of it. Do you agree with that?
I think, thank you so much. I want to move on.
Okay.
And I heard you mention William Federer.
Yes,
I
sir.
read some of his books. He's a prolific writer and thinker for the whole construct of America and world history as it relates to understanding values, putting values back where they should be. And when we were talking, it just reminding me about the World War II, and he was talking about the keeping up with the Joneses, and that was the era, the 50s and 60s, where people were trying to keep up with the Joneses, but also that was the emergence of the strong middle class of America. Mm-hmm. And then what Wayne Henkin is saying is that, and compounded with that, as the family starts to break down, compounded with that me do my own thing generation started to emerge. Yeah. And it said, then they didn't have any reference points anymore. And that was the structure of a well tight knit family. So thank you very much for that. Thank you, Wayne, for sharing that. Anyone else have anything else they would like to share?
Yeah, I do. Bruce Sucher.
Hi, Bruce. Welcome.
Hi, Bruce. Go ahead.
Hi, Doctor. Thank you so much for your comments and your heart. After college, my first job was teaching in the inner city of Chicago. And it was a long time ago, before so much of the problem that we see today was active. And one memory I have is I had 30 students in my class, of which one had both birth parents at home. Whoa. And so I feel my own feeling with all that's wrong with America today. I'm an old guy, grew up in the 50s, and I feel like all of the derision and all of the inability to get along with anybody else comes from the breakdown of the family. And I agree with what you said. It's not the school's job to teach morals and ethics.
Yep.
It's the parents' job.
Yep.
My parents stayed married all their lives, 68 years, and yet they went through hell with me and my brother when we were teenagers. Somehow, luckily, amazingly, through their perseverance, they survived. But my thought is, how in the world can a family with one parent, I mean, granted, sometimes one of the parents dies and things, but that's not the usual case, at least in Chicago. And what I heard, and I never heard this before, but what I heard fairly recently is that before 1970, when welfare got initiated, the Black family actually had a higher marriage rate, staying married. The divorce rate was lower than in the white community.
Yep.
And so if I feel that the only way for America to change and head in the right direction is to have two-parent families, I have no idea how to do that.
Part of the what I can't think of Jordan Peterson made this comment, and it's something that we need to focus on. I mentioned the Natural Family Month. And the reason we presented the Natural Family Month is to get people to start thinking in a different direction. By the way, it's a positive approach. As Christians, we're noted for not liking anything. It's like that commercial with Mikey. Mikey doesn't like anything. Christians don't like anything. So when we presented the Natural Family Month, it was a positive. It's saying, okay, how about this? Now the opposition has to be the naysayers and the haters, right? Keep in mind that that is a positive approach to this. The world shifts itself around your aim. That's the Jordan Peterson quote. We need to start thinking in terms of the family. And of course, I'm going to say the natural family, but there's no other way to do it. History will back me up on that. But we need to think in terms of the critical importance of the family and associate what we're seeing in society. Again, look at the kids in the streets that are breaking into the businesses and then that are causing all the issues or shooting their own classmates. Look what is happening, and then look to the family and rebuilding the family as a focal point. We need to focus on the family, if you will. If just that one item alone, I think would make a tremendous difference in the USA. That's going to bring up things like homeschooling. Like you mentioned, a job of a parent is to educate their child, not a complete stranger with a gay flag hanging behind them. Come on. We know better. And we're not helpless. We can do this. I don't have a drawn out plan. I just want to change the focus to the family. And you have to define the family before you ever do that, because somebody's going to come in and say, well, okay, 2 dads and 2 moms. That's a family. But it won't fit the child, what the child's looking for. But again, I'm making a short story long. My solution is to start focusing on the family. That should be our aim. The world shifts itself around our aim. We need to start saying, when Fox News says this and that and the other, well, wait a minute, what about the family in here? How could a good family have, not the government? We don't need to elect more Republicans, more conservatives. We need to say, parents, you got a job to do here. Start doing it. It's your job, not the government's. I hope that helps.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Pierre Biragad, how are you?
Well,
Welcome.
very good, but I see James Mooney has his hand up before me, so I want to
Did
respect the proper
James, are you
order.
there? Okay, so we're going. How about Susan Nishio? Who was first?
Well, I'm before Suzanne, but I have seen
Okay,
James.
so we'll go Suzanne.
So
We'll
okay, I
go,
can speak
James.
then.
Welcome, James. How
Okay,
are
he's
you?
there.
Good to see you.
I really appreciated Mr. Harris your comments, and I'm coming from a indigenous perspective, and the family, as defined by indigenous people, is everybody. We're part of the family of mankind. And the challenge that I see with the breaking up of the family is that we start thinking in separation aspects, that a gay family led isn't part of the family. Well, it is. And they raise children. The important thing is that, in my mind, is that we get out of this prejudice and limited understanding that and the churches are really from my experience really are perpetrators of separation. That if you're not a so-called male and female, mother and father, you're not in a family. To me, that's crazy. I mean, everybody, we're a family. We're all part of the human family, for goodness sakes. And when we start disrespecting and dishonoring some other people because they don't think and feel and act like we do, or like you do, we do, they're almost automatically put out to pasture, and they're not considered as part of the family. And that's the problem that I have, that I see. And I think personally, and I've stated it, the interfaith movement that is going on in the world, the international, it's the answer, because it's teaching people how to respect and honor each other's differences. And that is the basis of the problems that we have in our culture, is that we've stopped respecting other people's differences. That's my thoughts and feelings. Thank you.
James, go ahead, Pierre.
So Mr. Harrison, you didn't want to respond to that before I talk?
I can, and the thing I'm going to use is 4 words: evidence-based best practice. You can have all kinds of alterations to the family, and believe me, what we're seeing right now is just the beginning of the quote-unquote diversity. It's going to get a lot more interesting the further we get away from the best practices. If you have an opportunity to have a child and you love that child, you want to put them in a position where they can develop as best they can. That position is, I'm sorry, one man and one woman, because, and you call it what you want, but it is the truth. It's evidence-based best practice. It scares the dickens out of me what's going to happen when children grow up and they don't have that mother and father that they thought they had all along, and they're going, wait a minute, I know what I needed. I was lied to. There no longer is there isn't a Santa Claus. There isn't a mother. There isn't a father. I think we're borrowing trouble the further away we get from the evidence-based best practices. And I'll leave it at that.
Implement and institute, as I said right from the beginning, I actually am representing the indigenous beliefs, and this is throughout the world. And there's a saying that it takes a tribe to raise a child. And in my traditions, a child quite often would nurse for at least 5 years. And before they were actually, and they wouldn't leave their mother's presence for 5 years. And that was just a constant thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, but it was also known that that child would be nursed by a multiple of women, not just one. And so the whole concept that the family is the whole world. And the whole idea is that in reality, as far as I'm concerned, if a child is receiving love from a male or anybody that isn't even their biological fathers, that strengthens that child. But if you have this racist impediment saying you're the people that are giving you love are not legitimate people, holy mackerel! That is destroying that child.
I would like. I don't want to. And Pierre, if you want to take
done.
your time, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't
James, you're welcome to
want
contact me off air, and I'd be more than happy to continue the conversation with you. I appreciate where you're coming from.
Okay,
Yeah,
so am I next?
Yeah, I just wanted to say there are some research that is going on, and I don't think it's out of. I think God loves and humanity loves everybody. You don't discriminate against that. Not at all. But I think the evidence base he's talking, there's some evidence base that's not out there that are saying that those who families that the people who are raised in those other type of environment do have some emotional repercussions. And I don't want to go in because I don't want to take time, but I had a friend who had two mothers, and he told me, and when I was 15, I didn't remember until now, that he told me that he was suffering.
Yep.
So what I say, I don't know. I'm just going by what he said to me, and he was a product of that environment. But I'm not going to go into that. Pierre, God bless you. Please ask your question.
So
Thanks, brother.
I'm coming from in the very liberal country of Canada, which scares the shit out of many Americans.
My condolences.
So damn liberal. But nonetheless, there are good people here too, I can assure you. And I've been involved in fighting with the scourge of pornography since 2016, and helping men overcome addiction to pornography. And I think there's a whole other story here, is that pornography teaches us that a woman is a good to be purchased and to be sold, for one. And secondly, there are secret addictions to pornography that many men carry, and if their wives find it out, they might get the kick in the rear end, if you know what I mean, and or straighten out, or you're out of here. So I think there's a lot of marriages, and I like your concept of the natural family. I think it's beautiful, and I know someone here in Montreal has the same idea, same concept, that talks the same way.
Connect me up, please.
In French. Okay, I'll do that. Put I'll take your contact and I'll connect you. And so we're trying to promote the natural family, which is, as you say, a biological male, a biological female, and they add on this a 3-generation. They believe in the importance of grandparents. So 3-generation. We need grandparents, parents, and children. And this is where individuals would thrive. And pornography comes and completely messes up the brains, especially kids should not see porn, especially. It really messes up their brains because kids, there's a saying from Alan Saunders, whom people here know, values are not taught, they are caught. You don't listen to what your parents say, you see what they do, you copy what they do, whether you like it or not. So therefore, children should not see that kind of stuff. And I'm pushing for age verification legislation. God bless the USA. There's a few states who passed it, Louisiana, Texas, I believe, Utah, so that there has to be meaningful verification online before you can access a porn site, because kids shouldn't go to a strip bar and they shouldn't go to a website showing that kind of stuff either. So this is what I've been up to. So I'm wondering, have you come across that scourge and problem in what you're doing? Is that something, and how have you dealt with it?
I want to clarify something here, which may help in any of the questions that we have. I came to the knowledge of the truth by trying to prove the Bible wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you do that? You can take a Bible verse, but what are you doing? What are you comparing it with? You're comparing it with what you see in society, right? What you see in natural law. There's 2 types of natural law, spiritual and physical. And as I was attacking the Bible, and I did this for 6 months, I kept trying to prove it wrong. I thought I had it wrong. I go down a little rabbit hole, and I thought I had it. Nope, there's a little nugget of truth down there that I learned. So after 6 months of trying to prove the Bible wrong by trying to compare it to nature, it just, the light bulb come on and went, oh my God, I see what's just happened here. I can't prove the Bible wrong because the Bible records natural laws. So when we think about things, and when you think about the origin of when God started mankind, it was one man and one woman. It wasn't a tribe. There was no grandfathers at the time. It was just one man and one woman. Now, was that by a flip of a coin? Or, geez, I hope I get lucky here? Or was it purposeful? And when he did that, would he not have set up natural laws to support that? The answer is yes. When God created the world, he not only created the physical world, but he created the natural law world. Again, spiritual and physical. So when I see problems, and I think of like, okay, Satan said to Adam or to Eve, you can eat the apple, huh? You can get intoxicated. You can have sex with another man, or a woman can have sex with. It's okay. Not what could go wrong. What's wrong with that? Well, plenty. And as we've learned, just eating an apple, what it caused, and then when we're talking about doing things that are even more outrageous than that. And yes, I see those things happening in America, and it drives me crazy. But here's where I'm coming from. The way I grew up was a very negative environment. Behind every rainbow, I saw a cloud. And today, I mean, I fit into this world because there's nothing but negatives. But I say now that, okay, I can see the negative, but unless I have a solution for it, a positive solution, I have to keep my mouth shut. And that's where I want us to come from. Quit criticizing, especially other Christians. Find something you like about another Christian, because they are an important piece of that puzzle to get us back to where we need to get to. A very critical part of the puzzle.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Pierre, for asking
Thanks,
that
Peter.
question. I also wanted to, as we move on, actually this segment, that's why I didn't want to go into much dialogue about what people's feelings are about certain things. It's very touchy, but we're actually here to talk about how these entities or situations or whatever are affecting the behaviors of individuals that cause them and push them toward criminal behavior, and how do we reduce those? What are the avenues of reducing crime in America, which means crime in the world? I don't know, Susan Nishio. Oh, there you go. How are you? I was looking up there. You're right here. How are you?
Good
Welcome.
to see you, Zach. Thank you. Jim,
Yes.
I had a thought. I hope it's not too forward. I love the fact of the natural family and speaking out, and you're very clear. Your purpose is to focus.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot of other things. It's to focus.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'd like for a moment for us to consider, in terms of bridging and in terms of having the right attitude to bridge things. And it's a long shot, guys, but some of us are old enough to qualify to respond. And that is, do you remember what the young people who were striving and fighting during the Vietnam War against the war and looking for the idealism of peace and stuff, do you remember what they were looking for? Because I see, or I sense, that what the young people are looking for now is much the same. And the disillusionment that people had about how money didn't make it. Money was because our parents' generation sacrificed so much through the Depression, through the war, through having lost their parents in the war effort. They really had to work extra hard. They didn't come out of the chute into an economic situation. They went into a war, and then a little later, a little older, they were making up for lost time with the babies and the money and all this stuff. So our generation may have been thinking, money isn't it, love is it. And now we're talking about, if people are saying love is love. But consider that our longing heart, the desire for completion, the desire to get it right, as the Bible speaks, by the way, seems to be a very common thing. So if we see the young people and what they're doing with the viewpoint that they're bad, rather than they are similar, they're going through something similar to what we went through, that allows our compassion. That puts us on the same side. And if we're looking at the natural family, I know you don't want to get into a fist fight about politics, even though politics is one area of power. I think I'm looking for those who are advancing solutions. And my suggestion has to do with realizing that we're on the same team, because we went through what they're going through. We have a fundamental appreciation for how they might feel, but we also have the wisdom that our years have done. So my hope is that the Natural Family organization can be able to put forth a lot of suggestions that will really help healing this brokenness, speaking to those things that are particularly important in keeping a natural family alive and flourishing. You mentioned homeschooling, you mentioned a few other things. So I'm speaking to encourage and to suggest, especially in response to Mr. Beauregard and Mr. Mooney, that our attitude of first understanding and appreciating their situation, then making straight the conversation might help tremendously. That's what I'd like
Thank
to
you, Susan. Thank you, Susan, for that. Anything you'd like to say, Mr. Harris, in regards to that? And then we have
peace, love, joy, and understanding. That's what we were looking for in the 60s. And I agree in terms of the positive. When you bring up children, you want to make sure that you teach them to take personal responsibility. At the same time, to be self-reliant. And the key is to tell them that life is what they make of it, not anybody else. It's not what anybody else says or doesn't say or holds an opinion of you. It doesn't make any difference. Your life is what you make of it. And that is America, if not the entire world.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Susan, for that question and statement, actually. Chris Fox, welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment, soaking all of this, vital material up. And James, I'm really proud of you. I'm glad you're here and opening up these doors of conversation. It reminded me, my wife and I are an international couple. We're in a prayer group, people, and there was a young couple. She was from Africa. He is American, white American, and they had a beautiful baby. And their intention at a certain age was to send their new baby back to Africa to be raised with that family unit back there, and then bring the child back at a later time as he gets older for his schooling. And I just, that was a different dynamic that I had never ever heard before. And I'm wondering if this is something, James, maybe if you've sensed anything like this anywhere else. I know we're becoming so much more multicultural now in America, especially in my neighborhood here in Ohio. But, a lot of cultures from around the world are more family oriented than even our so-called traditional American families. So I wanted to just offer that there are options. And do you know of any other, cultures that are not going to raise their child from a certain age to a certain age here in America, maybe sending them home?
I have to go back, whether I know about these or not, I have to go back to what I believe is natural for a family and a child. For a mother and a father to have that child, and then when they're 2 months old or 2 years old, turn that child over to a grandparent to raise them and then bring them back home, I would sense there would be some kind of issues that would arise as a result of that. Anything that goes outside of that, and again, it's the basic need is a child needs a mother and a father. And again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't have a doctorate in it, but I've seen enough of it to say, yeah, that's right. And it has to be one male, has to be one female. And then they have a need for that and an intimacy need. And maybe intimacy might be the correct word to use here. That child needs that intimacy with their direct mother and father. If there's a situation where that doesn't happen, okay, then go to the grandparents, then go to the aunt or the uncle or whatever. But the basic, when you can do it, if you can do it, that's what you should start with. But when we start making the exceptions the rule is when we get into trouble. And boy, look at the United States. The exceptions seem to be the rule all over the place.
Thank you.
Good point. Yeah, thank you so much. That's a really excellent point. We're coming to the close of our meeting and this webinar. I just want to thank you for coming on. It was an innovative conversation and points that were made. As we had said, we all can connect this dysfunction of a family to criminal behaviors that are antisocial in many ways, because many times those kids are acting out. They're acting out because of a lack of some love somewhere. And many times it's the lack of the love of a parent or the lack of love of parents. Parents are really a critical component of mental health, emotional health, and even our physical health. And I agree with James when he was saying that we're one family when it comes to that point. But I think that there's always a slight nuance of, I think some points are like a spider web, is a fine line, but it's still the truth. We are one family under God, and but at the same time, we are looking at recorded research and data that sometimes are not put out there, and we have to look at the data that's there and dig it up and see and make that equal comparison, and then we are able to make not more of a rash judgment of various situations. But I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing this natural family and what we would call or the power of family values. James, if you have one last word or two as we come to close, you're welcome to share a few more words as we close this.
Well, thank you. I put down my hand thinking that we didn't have enough time, but I will.
James, I've put my email address in there. You can contact me at that. And and also
I meant James Harris. I'm sorry.
Okay. Just a parting thoughts on this particular thing. I think Chris's thoughts were just absolutely powerful, but I want to express again, I'm coming from an indigenous point of view, where my people were taken away from their family and raised in schools in which they had the living daylights kicked out of them, and some killed because they would not give up their language or because they would not give up their culture. And that is such an example, and that was perpetrated by religions. And so again, I'm just saying it's vitally important that we love and respect the differences in which we find ourselves in. That's basically it.
Thank you very much for that. I'm sorry. I think James, Mr. Harrison, he froze and I think he fell off, but I want to thank everybody for coming on as usual. Thank everybody for their comments, their statements. Every statement, every comment is valuable and pertinent to what we're talking about. Thank you again, James Mooney. Chris Fox, always good to see you. Thank you for bringing such a stalwart speaker on, and Nadia, and all that it came over. Susan, and me and Susan go back when she was talking about our era. So I remember when me and Susan, I had hair, Susan hair was dark brown or something. And
Oh,
probably a couple pounds lighter, you know. So
Thackeray,
yes.
you losing your hair proves that we're brothers. You gifted me here.
All right. God
God
bless
bless.
everyone. Thank you for coming on, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Hello to Zambia. God
Bye-bye.
bless.
God bless.
Take care of Zambia for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Nadia.
Welcome.
Always good to see you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Zachary, for your good webinar.
Yeah,
Good to
thank
see
you.
Pierre. Long time.
Yes, Suzanne.
Yes.
All right.